Thanks for tuning into Upward Way podcast. If you're looking to be spiritually blessed, moved, and inspired, there is no doubt you are in the right place. On our show, guests recount their encounter with Christ and how their lives have been transformed through the grace and love of God. And now, please welcome our host.
Hello and welcome to Upward Way. I am your host, Marlon Walters. My guest today is a staff member and part of the ministry team at Hope Channel, Japan, Ivy Taguiam. Welcome to Upward Way.
Thank you so much, Marlon. It's a privilege for me to be able to share this time and, share my experience with people around.
Yes, and I'm really delighted to have you. I know we have been trying to coordinate for a while, but nothing happens before its time, and we trust that God allows things to unfold in His own timing. What I want to do to start, Ivy, is to retrace, your steps a little bit. You're not originally from Japan, so as you would be asked many times, what it is that brought you to Japan. Let me start there.
Yeah, I'm from the Philippines. Actually, my mom lived here and she came here to work to support us. So when I was 15, she invited us, or she asked us to live with her here in Japan. So yeah, I've been here for many years.
Yes, and persons will hear you saying you have been here for many years, but you don't look too older than a 15-year-old. What has that experience been like for you? In a nutshell, coming from your homeland to a new society, new language, new culture, what has that experience been like for you in a general sense?
At first, when we found out that we were be living here in Japan, it was actually exciting. Like, we were excited, but when the day comes, like you're gonna be leaving, I felt like, oh no, will I survive? Because I don't know the language. I don't know, like, you cannot read the kanji, so how would I communicate? But yeah, it's a mixed feeling. It was hard at first, learning the language and learning the culture, but I've loved it. I've learned the language, not that, fast, like maybe a year or two. It took me a year or two to learn the language, but now, I cannot live in my country anymore.
That is awesome. And for my listeners, especially those of us who are in Japan and we struggle like myself with the Japanese, you can actually learn it. And as she just shared, it took maybe a little over a year for her to learn. And today she's fluent in Japanese. I mean, that's not the focus of the interview, but you listen to her speak, she's able to converse just like a native speaker. I'm going to jump now into your, faith journey. So you are not just here in Japan to live and enjoy, the beauty of the country, but you happen to practice your faith so much so that even today you work as a part of the ministry team. So as it relates to your faith journey, where and when would you say it all began?
Oh, actually, when I was born, we were Christians, but before, we were not part of the SDA church. Originally, my grandparents were Catholic. So, when you were born, you're like automatically became like, Catholic. And then my mom and my dad, they became like born again Christians. Her family side is they're like Adventist. My great grandma is also Adventist in my mom's side. So she was not an Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist before, but when she came to Japan, she is like searching for, the truth. So yeah, to make the long story short, she became an Adventist. Before we came here to Japan, she actually asked her brothers, her brother is a pastor. So she asked her brother to look after us, because I was part of the like a broken family. Like my mom and dad got separated when I was young, so I was like living in my with my dad, and then after living with my mom, so it was like a chaos. So when we were living with my mom, she asked, because she lives here in Japan, she asked her brother to look after us. And her brother is a Seventh Day Adventist pastor. So he was the one before coming to Japan. He actually taught us, or he actually take us to the church. So we have been experiencing the fellowship with SDA members before we came to Japan. I got baptized here in Japan when I was 17 years old. But that's just the start. And after that, a lot of things has happened. Yeah, I think you're gonna ask me questions about that.
Yes, I can just imagine, as you say, a lot of things would have happened. At 17, many persons are unsure about life, but you decided that, I want to take a leap of faith as it relates to, walking with Christ. So maybe, what was, let us say, the early part of that journey was, because you said this took place before you came to Japan, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I suppose transitioning, from that, living again in a foreign land, what were things like, as it relates to navigating a new culture, embracing your faith, maybe when you are here, not enough support, in a society. What was it like then for you?
Well, when I was in the Philippines, maybe I was still a child. Yeah. I'm not that mature, right? Like so, before that, I really enjoyed going to church because you have new friends, you learn a lot of things about the Bible. But when we came here, it started like teenager, like you wanted to explore, but going to church is like um the first years were like, okay, I can meet a lot of people in the church, new faces, and then after that I was like, I have questions like, "Oh, why am I here in the church?" Like typical questions, like, I don't actually really know why I'm in the church. I did Bible study before, when you're gonna be baptized, you do Bible studies, but I don't really, I didn't really understand why, I will be baptized. So I was just there like just go with the flow, because everyone's like, you need to be baptized. Yeah, like normal, like so. Yeah, I was in the church, but it was not actually like, I really want to be there. Like it's just part of like your mom goes to the church, your family goes to the church, your friend goes to the church. I might as well just go, like kind of thing, like that. Yeah, it was nice to be in the church, but I really didn't know why, the reason why I was in the church.
Wow. I imagine for others, they may have the same experience, but today, you are still not just in the church, but you
Of
play,
course.
an active role in the church. So, as it relates to your ministry in the church, I know you have served media ministry, you serve as a deaconess, you sing on the choir, so many things. And today, you are part of the ministry at Hope Channel Japan. So, in terms of that, spiritual foundation, what was it, that caused you to remain anchored? And maybe another way I would ask this question, how did you actually pursue your own spiritual growth?
Should I prepare a tissue? Because you might. Do you want me to cry?
You can do as much as you need.
No, actually, yeah, like 10 years ago.
And sorry to cut in, but if there are personal things you don't wish to share.
Yeah, I'm okay. There are things that I won't, say, but it's 10 years ago. Actually, like really exactly 10 years ago. But for me, it feels like, like it's forever. I told you I was in the church and then I went out. Like, I'm in the church, but I go around and party and drink and do stuff that you know Christians shouldn't do. right? So it took maybe maybe 10 years to, like, I'm outside the church. Like, I'm in the church, but outside. My mind is outside the church. 10 years ago, um, I got really tired of the things that I was doing. Like, I was asking God, like, I actually been to like many relationships that I shouldn't be in. But before that, going into that relationship, I knew, because I have a background in the church. Like, I know that it's not good to be in that relationship, but I am a hard-headed, person. So I was like, oh, I think it's gonna be okay as long as I can go back to church. So I did it. I did some things that I should not be doing, and then I got tired. And you know, one day I was really tired about these things, and I was crying and blaming God. Like, why have you allowed these things to happen to me? Because I've told you, I'm from a broken family, right? So there was this emptiness in my heart. I was trying to fill, like, looking around and then looking for that person who will really give me that love that is lacking in my heart. So I was crying to God and asking him, why has he allowed these things to happen to me? Like, I just want these people who I love to love me back, right? And then, what happened is, like, literally, I heard like a voice, like, I heard his voice, like, talking to me and saying, you're doing the same thing to me, right?
Wow, wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, because I was like, am I really hearing it? Or, like, maybe I'm just hallucinating, like imagining things because I'm so mad. So I was like, the voice that I heard, like, I just really want to give you love, but you're rejecting me. So you're doing the same thing to me. And I was like, I get teary eye when I remember it because it's the start of my journey, right? So that night, I was like, oh, I felt so selfish because, you know, God did nothing wrong to me, right? But I was rejecting him. And I realized that he is the love that I was looking for. He is the only one who can fill this emptiness that I had in my heart. So from that day, I was like, okay, I'm gonna before that, going like maybe a month or two, my sister, my sister Grace, right? She is actually one of the person who helped me, like, in this journey, because she saw how do I say it, like, I'm not in good shape, like, spiritually and stuff, like, physically, maybe she saw how sad, or you know how unhappy I am. So she advised me, she gave me an advice that changed my life. Like, she told me, why don't you try, like, listening to sermons instead of watching, or listening to secular things, or like listen to hymns and sermons for a week, and then if nothing happens, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna say anything about God anymore to you. So I'm not gonna be doing, I'm not gonna force you to listen to those things, but just do it, and then let me know what will happen. And then I did it for a week. Like, I stopped, watching movies. I stopped listening to songs because I love listening to songs. Even if I just hear the intro, I know what song it is. So it's like, I stopped doing those things. And then, yeah, there's the change was like really fast, like after a month. And then I heard the voice that God was talking to me. Like, I also did the same thing to him. Like, the changes were like, everyone was shocked when they saw me. Like, is this Ivy that we know? Like, I go to church early. Like, I'm the first one in church, and before you cannot ask me to even sing in front, or just even sit in front. You cannot ask me. I always stay at the back, like, you know. But then, that day, really, when I heard God's voice, it changed my life.
That's a powerful testimony. And I know if I don't ask you anything else, that would be enough for the audience. But, just like you, I like songs. I wouldn't consider myself a singer. But this song by Jimmy Swaggart, the title of a song says his voice, makes the difference. And the chorus would say, his voice makes the difference. When he speaks, he relieves my troubled mind. Is the only voice I hear that makes the difference, and I'll follow one day at a time. It seems as if these lyrics, that Jimmy Swaggart wrote could have been written just by you, because having heard God speaking to you in that audible sense, then you responded. I must also say something. This is just from my own
Mhm.
observation. The Lord says in his word, let your light so shine before men and they may see your good works. And someone might be hearing you sharing your testimony and say, she's just talking. But this is something that I see, weekly, that when I go to church, you are one of those persons who are there, before others. So it's not just talk, people, it's substance. It's not just talk, it's substance, it's a reality. So,
Praise God.
yes, praise God. And as you talk about, God speaking to you as well, why do you suppose for some individuals or for many people, they find it so difficult to trust God's plans for their lives? Because I imagine after he would have spoken to you, he would have outlined to you what his plans for your life would have been. So why do you suppose so many people find it difficult, and not just finding it difficult, but some of them even just neglect their faith altogether and they, go another way?
Mm,
Yeah, that's a difficult one. So take some
I
time to
know.
process it.
I know, because based on my experience, I used to do that because we have our own plans, right? We have our own ways on how we want to live, right? So I think it's human nature. Like, we're hard-headed and we don't listen. Even in with our parents, we don't listen, right? When we were, you know that, right? So maybe they just haven't experienced God in their life. They haven't seen how God really worked for me, because before that, I have background. I told you, my mom is, she really loves God. So I saw a lot of like miracles happen before, coming to Japan. So that's also maybe things that help me to really accept, like, or really listen or follow God, like, in an instant, because I've seen a lot of those things. But for us other people, I think they haven't been in that environment, or they haven't seen any of those things. So maybe that is one reason why they are not, they don't want to follow, or they don't want to listen to God. I don't know, but if my answer was correct, but yeah, there are people who's like, to see is to believe, right? If they don't see what's happening, or they don't see any miracles, they don't believe.
Well, your answer can't be incorrect because it's based on your own experience. And, different persons will see it in I would say, a different way. Now I'm going to go into, challenges we face as we traverse life's journey, not just spiritually, but, also in a social way. Of course, you did highlight a few of those, which might have been because of your choices, but whether or not they were your choices, what would have been some of the greatest challenges that you had to overcome as an individual? And in the same breath, what should have been, or what would have been your strategy, or how were you able to overcome some of these challenges?
No, okay. I still have a lot of challenges, like, I still have those things. Like, every day is a struggle. Like, every day is, I need to die to myself daily.
And I'm happy you mentioned that, because I frame the question this way deliberately, and that is how some people imagine it that, okay, I'm finished with that challenge and that's it. Life will be smooth. But I'm happy you did mention that it's a continuous journey, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, because we are being sanctified every day. So there are challenges. There are things that I used to do that was easy for me to give up. Like, I used to go drinking and partying and watching things that I should not be watching, right? And listening to those music because I love to sing. You know that I love to sing, right? So I was able to give up those things through God's help. I really prayed for it. Like when I told God, okay, Lord, you gave me a voice to sing. I'm not telling that I'm good in singing, but you have given me this voice to sing. So I used it before, not to glorify your name, but to glorify myself. So from now on, I'll be singing for your glory alone. So I asked him to help me because that was my weakness. I really love singing with friends. We go to karaoke and sing like for many hours. So God helped me. There was a time when I just prayed. I was like, Lord, please help me not to, be tempted to go to karaoke because I don't want to sing those things anymore. And then after I prayed, there was a phone call from a friend asking me, do you want to go to karaoke tonight? I was like, oh, why, Lord? This is so fast. The temptation, the test is so fast. So, and then that moment, I was like, Lord, please help me because I love my friends because I will do anything for them. Like, my friends and me is like, they are first before me. So I cannot say, that's also one of my weakness. I cannot say no. So, yeah. So when they say, okay, I'll go with you guys, even if sometimes, there was like a battle, like, should I choose God or should I choose my friends? So before I didn't know the line where I should, draw the line. But God helped me little by little, He helped me to like, Ivy, you should, I told myself God should be the first one in my life before others, right? So I think that's what helped me to overcome those small things, but I still have a lot, like bigger ones that I should overcome.
Yes, and I will not allow the audience to get an insight into what those bigger ones are because some things are just not gonna be shared. So as you talk about, drawing that line, for me, it's about, maintaining balance in terms of handling life's challenges. What advice, yeah, this is something I didn't plan to ask, but what advice would you give to, the youth? Because, we have a lot of youth and there are some who they grow up in the protective arms of their family. They have mom and dad. For you, you didn't necessarily have that all the time. So what advice would you give to youth as they, struggle with some of the things that you have struggled with, as a youngster? And even now you will still have your own struggles. So take 5, 10 minutes just to give some advice to the youth, especially, the ones who are in a society where, there are so many things that are just, pulling at them each day.
Yeah. You know how I love the youth in the church, right? They are like my babies.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, because I've seen them grow, because, I'm their auntie or their mom. So, yeah. I think what I can give to them is, yeah, I wish somebody have told me before, like, just read your Bible because God will really give you instruction on how you should live there, how you should live your life. And I wish I've known that before because if I should have, I would have known that. Like, I know that I should read my Bible before, but I was not listening to those people who have more experienced than me. So for the youth, praying and also reading your Bible is the best advice that I can give to them, because there are people you look up to. Yeah, you look up to, but it's kind of risky. If that person made a mistake, you will be like, oh, why did he do that, or why did she do that, right? Then your faith will be gone. So the only thing that I can give them is to just look at Jesus. He is he's the only one you can look up to. And yeah, he is, my favorite song is The Love That Will Not Let You Go. So that's the only thing that I can give them. Just look up to Jesus.
Very simple yet so effective. Read your Bible and look up to Jesus. And that is something I would want to also endorse, because that has been my experience, throughout the few years that I've been a part of the faith, just reading the Bible, and sometimes persons will hear you say read the Bible and they may ask how, or things like those. But read the Bible and apply the stories to life. Don't just read them and just see them as stories, but apply them to life. So you read about, let us say, David, and you say, oh, David defeated Goliath, but you don't think about, what it is that caused him to have had that courage. It was because he had a perfect belief that God could, bring him victory. Now I'm going to transition now into your life as a full-time minister. I don't know if you think about it in that capacity, but you really are. So you're a part of the ministry team at Hope Channel Japan. So if you could just walk us through a little bit, what is that like? A little insight as to what are some of the things you do, or what are some of the things that is done there. So maybe not just what you do, but maybe what is done there. You could maybe take it from there.
Yeah. Can I just give you a background on
Sure,
how
sure.
I joined this ministry?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I failed to to ask.
It's okay. So this one also, I actually prayed for it, because I told you I want to dedicate my life in doing God's work, because I was out and then doing things that I wanted to do on my own, right? So I asked God, so how can I serve you better? I think when you finally realize what God has done for you will have this compassion for people outside. Like you will really see them in different, right? Before you're just like, okay, there's a lot of people outside, so it's okay. I maybe somebody will, share with them the good news. So it's not me. So it's not my work. But when you realize what God has done for you, and you really want to share that to people, right? Like yeah, like the good news, you cannot, contain yourself, like, I really want these people to also experience what I've experienced. So I prayed to God, like, Lord, what should I do? What can I do, like, to help these people around me, like here in Japan, because it's the language, right? We have language barrier. So how could I share to them in, in Japanese, or the language that they know? So one day I used to work in a finance company before. So I prayed, Lord, I want to go do a ministry for you. And also I want to do missionary work. So first I prayed to God, to send, give me work that where I can really share his love to people. So there was a call in our church, like, who wants to go to, like, Mindoro, the AWR mission trip for the pastors here in Japan. Like, they've sent pastors from Japan, right, to the Philippines to do a evangelistic series for 3 weeks. So I was like, oh, I want to sign up for that. So I signed up and then went to the Philippines for the AWR program. So when I came back, the work that I was doing, it doesn't feel like, I still want to do those things. Like, I was a secretary in the company. So I was like, I don't think this is the work that I want to do to continue. So I prayed. And then Pastor Mark the former pastor of Tokyo International Church, he asked me, "Do you wanna try, the Hope Channel Japan because they're looking for a staff?" So I was like, "Oh, I don't know because I don't have any background in editing and filming, and I only have a little in our church, right? Helping in the media, but not as a job, like not as a." So I was like, "Oh Lord, is this the ministry that you want me to do for you?" So after I prayed, I opened my devotion that day, and the answer was there. So yeah, that's why I told you I need the book so I can read the thing that God's answer for me. So
Yes, take your time and read. And I'm just saying to my listening audience, Ivy's about to share the response, that God gave
mhm.
her as she had devotion that morning. So please, if you weren't paying attention before, now is the time to pay attention. Go ahead, Ivy.
Yes. So this is just one part of the paragraph. It's a book called The Atmosphere His Highest. So I'll read it.
And who was the author?
Oswald Chambers.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the paragraph. Never choose to be a worker, but once God has placed his call upon you, woe be to you if you turn aside to the right or to the left. It's in Deuteronomy 28:14. And then I told God, right? Like, Lord, I don't know anything. I don't know any of this stuff. What should I do? And then the next sentence is like, He will do with you what He never did before His call came to you. And He will do with you what He is not doing with other people. Let Him have His way. So it's like, oh, okay, okay, Lord. So this is the answer. So okay, I will tell my pastor. I will join the Hope Channel Japan. So yeah, that's the beginning. I'm still learning because I didn't study editing before, but every time I edit, I pray like, Lord, I don't have any idea on how to, make this video for the people who will look, who will watch this. So please help me find the right music, help me find the right footage so I can give glory to your name. So that's how I survive every day.
Awesome. But in truth, we are always learning what we are doing. But I loved as I listened to you, we hear some statements which sound cliche, and I'm happy that you didn't use those, cliche statements, because sometimes people think it's just talk. But the truth is, when God asks us to do something, we oftentimes are not equipped to do it, but He will train us. We just need to be willing. And once we are willing, then He will take care of the
And
training. And today, as you are saying, you realize, working in finance was not what you really enjoyed each day, but you wanted to give your life in service. Just I would say a light hearted question, when people think about you, they would have their own concept of you, and your close friends know you pretty well. But what would you say would surprise most persons about you?
most of the people in the church before we became close, they think I'm a snob person. I don't really talk a lot. Before I used to be like, if you don't talk to me, I'm not gonna talk to you. But I realized that that's not how you make friends. So, I want to share the gospel, or if I want to have Christ's character, I don't think he's like that, right? So sometimes it still comes out, the old Ivy. Like, I'm trying, I'm praying that God will give me more friendlier, you know, approach or face where people can approach me without, hesitating that, oh, maybe this person will snub me. Or yeah.
Well, I suppose that's why, we're a team, as you say. People will think that you're snobbish, you're a snob, but when they get to know you, they realize it's totally
The
different.
other the other way around. Yeah.
Yes. I picked something out of your story that you shared earlier, that your sister came to you, she didn't pressure you in any way, but she just said, why don't you just think about, just even if it's a last time, just, listen to something else. So apart from the songs that you would usually listen to and the places that you would usually go, why don't you just maybe try listening to some sermons and see if there would be a change? So if there were some individuals you'd love to give God thanks for that you would have met along your faith journey. This is your faith journey, not just life, but of course, you could make it broader that you'd want to give God thanks for. Who would these individuals be? And also, why would you want to say, God, thank you for these individuals that you have placed in my life?
It's a hard question, but so when I was young, those who build the foundation, I don't know if you know them. They're in Tachikawa Church right now, but they are the Morales family who helped me. They were my teachers in the Sabbath school. They are the ones who has given me like advices because we were young when I joined the church. So I was young, so uh, they were the one who built the foundation, I think, and also my mom, right? She is my personal Ellen G. White. I think like she prayed for me, like I think she's still praying for me until now. Yeah, my mom and my Talk International Church family, and also my sister and a friend of mine who is now in South Africa. He is actually one of the mentor. When I came back to church, he actually helped me. Um, he gave me a lot of books to read. So I was not idle. Like, it's like he loves books. So he gave me a lot of books to read. So it helped me to be able to learn more about God and to have a closer relationship with God. So I'm not gonna mention his name because I don't think people they don't need to know who he is, but he is one of the mentor that helped me as well. Right now at this moment, I have, friends in church who help me when I am down, who help me, who I can share what I've read in the Bible, who I can discuss or, make conversation about the things that I struggle with. So God really blessed me with people who really was there to support me.
It's great to have a mom who will pray for her children, not to pray for them to become wealthy, but to pray
Yeah.
that they will have a nurturing relationship with God. And as you said, you had mentors, and some of them are still mentoring you as you go along. I know we're getting toward the end of the interview, but it's so refreshing to really interact with you. And this question is something you have answered segments of this, but as it relates to maintaining balance, and this is not balance in terms of time management, but life comes, and with life, there are disappointments, there are setbacks, there are difficulties, as I just said. So how do you maintain that balance? So whenever you would have had, disappointments, whenever you have faced this rejection, distresses, discouragement, what has been that key to maintaining balance in your life to allow you to stay, on course and to maintain your integrity in Jesus?
So there's this quote that I love. I don't know if I can remember the whole thing, but there's nothing to fear. I know you know this one. There's nothing to fear lest you forget how God has led you in the past, right? So I just look back on how God led me this far and then pray to Him, like, Lord, you know, you have a plan for me. That's the verse that my sister gave to me when she she talked up to me, sharing with me. So she gave me the Jeremiah 29:11. So I know that God has a plan and all things work together for good for those who love God, right? So I just pray. I just pray to God to like remind me of his love when I cannot, I cannot see the light, you know. So just look back and see how God had led me and everything. It's clear again.
Yes, when we remember that God was victorious in the past, yes, it really empowers us for the future. The last question I'm going to toss at you, this one has to do with projection, for the future. You did indicate that you enjoy ministry and you wanted to make your life, ministry centered or ministry focused. So if there's one thing that you feel that God is, calling you to do right now, so let us say you could start a new ministry, could go to a new place, whatever it is, what would you say that is? And then who would that ministry serve?
Oh, at this moment, because I told you, I joined Hope Channel because I want to share with people around. I don't know if I can say it here, but you know, I really want to be, with people like one on one, like talk to them personally and not just, sharing it by using your like talents or like editing or other stuff is okay. But the people around us right now, looking back to what happened this past years, people around us need like personal interaction. Like, they want to really know that you're there for them or you're really listening. You have personal connection with them. So you're right. I want to build a new ministry where I can really go around and be with people, not just, in front of the computer sharing, but I want to be connected with them and share really God's love to them.
You say that personal one-on-one ministry. Well, when you're ready, you have a volunteer to join. Yes.
Yeah, let's make a new ministry.
Yes. Well, join in strengthening that ministry. Well, let me say thanks for really taking the time out to share today your story with us. We have been speaking with Ivy Taguiam. She is a part of the ministry team at Hope Channel Japan. But not only so, she serves her local church, Tokyo International Seventh-day Adventist Church, in various capacities. You will see her singing on the choir. You will see her serving as a deaconess. And so she's really fully ingrained in ministry and working. But of course, she says she would love to do more. But as is customary on our show, Ivy, do you have any parting words to share with our listeners?
Yeah, there are times in our life, like, we don't see the light, right? Like, Lord, maybe this is the end of it. You lose hope. But what I want to share with them is like, God has overcome a lot of things for us. Like, He really won everything for us, right? So just look up to Him and don't don't let go of His hand. He will be coming soon and we will be going home. So move forward, like this ministry upward way. We need to look forward in His soon coming. So yeah, hold on to God's promises.
We will surely hold on to God's unchanging hand and to His promises. You've been in tune to Upward Way. Do join us again next week when we'll have another interesting guest sharing his or her story of faith. You can subscribe to weekly episodes on the Apple, AWR, Loud Voice, Spotify, Stitcher, or Podcast Guru apps. Or you can just visit Upward Way Facebook page, click like, and leave a comment. Until then, I am Marlon Walters saying goodbye. May God bless you.
You've been listening to the Upward Way podcast, the #1 audio production show for people who want encouragement and reassurance in a muddled world.